All right, all right, all right. Week 16. My friends, we are, if I could be so bold as to say that, we are almost done, which is crazy. Time has flown so fast in this class and really in this semester. I'm looking forward to it being over. I'm going to be honest with you. Today, in the real world, it's November 8th, and I've had a really long day. I ended up being asked to go out to the zoo and speak to a group of young students out there, and it was really an interesting experience. And then I've come here and been working on week 16 all day. And week 16 is a good week, I think. I'm not going to tell you it's easy, but the one thing, and as I was reflecting on this, um, talking to these students today, and like my personal philosophy is like I don't run from hard things. And it's taken me a while to get to this place in my life where I don't run from them, I run to them. Like it's really like this last weekend I mentioned this to them, and I think it's not one of those I'm bragging, but I'm happy that I do it. Is like one of the ways I have worked on my focus is to be as physically fit as I can given the amount of time I can give it. So I ran a 10K this weekend, and I did pretty well for somebody of 60 years of age. I finished in the top three. I did, somewhere around 10-minute mile, a little over almost 11, but still, I'm happy that I can do that. And so, same with coding, right? So you don't. And this week, I'm going to give you a challenge. There's going to be we're going to in this week in the code along. We're going to implement, if you didn't already do it, the food source, and then we're going to start looking at water consumption because water consumption was really kind of interesting in that. You'll have a code challenge around that, and then for the discussion, I'll actually give you a challenge for finishing up the water consumption and then doing the next one, which is the purchases, I believe. Which means, I think, and if I look at the schedule, I was actually thinking about this. Like here we are at week 16, right? So that means next week we have, right, another code along, and I'm pretty much at this point going to tell you it's going to be doing more of the footprint because I think that's good stuff at this point. I think it drills some of those fundamentals, and we've created quite a code base. I mean, when you look at the amount of code you've written, right, it's pretty phenomenal. And then our last discussion, depending on where we're at, we'll probably have two parts here. One will be that you'll share your final version of your decision app, that which I think will be fun for us to actually see the actual work that got done. And I mean, this is where sometimes as you're sharing things, it's so normal to compare what you have to somebody else's. And in life, there's always going to be somebody who's a better whatever than you, right? That's just the way the world is. And like I've had to work on that. Oftentimes, I've had students in my class that are better coders than I am. And I've really learned to be okay because there's a learning process always. To think one person is going to have that answer, it's just not the way the world works in my experience. It's just not there. And it's really good to work with other people that have a great skill base because you tend, and this is programming is very common to do in teams. That's why these group discussions have been my way to try to help you kind of do that, is to help each other. And you guys have been great. Everyone has been great about this part, is giving feedback. Matter of fact, I went through and I was looking at you guys are actually still working on the async stuff, right? So anyway, just FYI, just do that. So on this one now, on the final decision, the final step, I've given you like, and I had you do it in the prior week, is think about a couple things you'd want to add to your app. Like what would you want to add to it? And I also say make it look nice. Put some CSS in there. Many of you have already done this, but if you haven't, think about you're getting ready to next week. show it off. So it's like, you're taking the car out, polish it up a little bit. And, there's so many great ways to add simple CSS like fonts and backgrounds. And if you need help, come see me. Also, Google and chat are your friends in those areas. The thing I wanted to say, though, in the attendance post, now that I've kind of rambled on about that, is that a couple things. I'm going to introduce the ternary operator, and I just want to say a word about it. So the ternary operator, and here it is just a one-line way to write an if-else. Okay? All right, if something is true, else, like so if is member, right? When we pass it in, could be true. If it's true, then it's going to return. Now, you don't have to use a return, okay? But it is going to be, right, the outcome of whatever you're setting. Now, in this case, there's different ways to write this, just like there is a different ways to write an if, but it's going to return $2, okay, the string in this case, because we're saying true, this would be the true, and then this would be the false. So it's just a really simple way of writing an if. It's conditional, right? It's abbreviated, of course. And so, of course, we lose some of the, when you need to go beyond just a simple if-else, then obviously this wouldn't work. But there are many times, and actually the reason I'm bringing it up here is I ended up using it in the solution for the coding challenge for setting the value inside of the class. And this was a great way to do it because I didn't have to write the if, right, logic or write a function before I called new on the footprint to actually have it run the code, both setting the values and the constructor for that. So it was a nice way to do it. And we haven't talked about it. And there's a lot of topics we have not talked about in this class, man. There is so much, but I really felt like going back to some of the fundamentals in this weekend and next, I think is hopefully a good way to end up. But we also are introducing a couple new things along the way. So the other thing is, I want to say this because this is just true in general, right? If you are using somebody else's code in your own code, now this is true like if you're in the professional realm, but this was also true in a code review. You're responsible for every, even if you're using somebody else's code, A, you should give them credit, right? And B, even if you're using somebody else's code, you need to understand it. And so, yeah, you can often find good tutorials where people do the exact thing or close to what you need, and then you have to figure out how to modify it. So one of the things I recommend is when you do that, give credit to where you got it, and then talk about how you modified it. And the reason you want to do that is because when you submit it as, and in this case, as an assignment, right, you want to make sure you've given that credit, but also it gets you used to giving that kind of notation in a professional realm, because those are important. Trust me, the idea of having code reviews, somebody asking you about your code, submitting code. Now, I know not all of you are going into this field. I get it, right? So I just wanted to say that part. Okay, so I am now got to go work on my 85 class, and then I'm going to start on 17. So my hope is to get 17 done by Thanksgiving, which if it's November 8th, I should be able to do it. Anyway, thanks so much. Your reply in this case is any of the things that I've talked about, right? But do you understand why I say give credit to the website or the author you use a code for? Let me know in your reply, right? Do you understand that? Do you understand the reason I say it, right? And the fact that if you when you turn in something specifically for a code review, right? And this happened a couple of times in reviews this time, is students had used chat, which is, it's okay to use chat. Really, I'm not opposed to it at all. But the thing is, you got to understand what it's doing and why it's doing what it's doing, especially when you're using the code it's generating. And it's because you don't learn, right? It learns. Anyway, we could talk about the repercussions of that. Okay, I'm done. I will shut up. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.